Okay, so this is the first floor. Very interesting room. Got a shop floor downstairs. Now I think this probably would have been the Piene Nobile. This would have been the reception room, maybe, because it's quite high status. It will be a bedroom, so depending on whether it's rented or sold, we have a mattress here and a bed head there. But I haven't set it up just yet because we want to have full area to display this wonderful floor. So let's start with the fireplace. Again, when we were working doing the grill outside, because we took the grill out of the pavement and had it reforged because it was too narrow, it's broken. Had a lot of cement damage. People had covered it over with cement, and the cement had caused it to rust. We found a big chunk of fireplace, and I'm just trying to think where that might be now. It might be somewhere around. If I find it, I shall show you. But it had this pattern on there, so we know that it was a hob grate. This is known as a hob grate. And this one again was discarded in a skip, and it was broken. And you'll notice that what I've done is I've just let in a piece of metal here, and that piece of metal has come from one that we had upstairs that I angle ground off. So I put that piece of metal in there, matched it in. You'll see that it hasn't got that pattern on there, but I think it's an honest repair. We've bricked this up here. We've repaired this and sat a stone at the back, so this was all in pieces, you know, kind of lots of pieces. So it's all.
And the hearth?
Well, the hearth, I know it's not to everybody's taste, but what's interesting was when these houses were first built, 1700, they used to use quite a lot of English marble. And English marble of this date looks very much like this with the figuring, but because it's 300 years old, it's gone yellow and it looks fantastic. And I know we had a hearth very similar to this in, where are we now? One of the quays down on the Thames, which was fantastic, a really nice early 1720s house, and it had a piece of marble very similar. And then when we did Kennington Road, which is 1790, we found that the whole fireplace was made out of this stone. So we had the whole fireplace, that's to do with the inserts and the mantle, made out of this stone here, which I think might be a Greek stone. And the reason we went for this because it matched the original 1790 Kennington fire surround, and this was a piece that was left over that was never used. So I thought it was, you know, quite appropriate. And I think one of the reasons it wasn't used because we didn't like this big blob here. But seeing that it was going free and that we've got this fireplace and we know that the stone is the right age and it was the right size, it seemed to be asking me to live here forevermore. So that's why it's there. This is original stone, it's broken, so we've repaired it, and we've repaired it in the centre. The architrave was missing, so we put that back. This is all original that we have here. And you'll see from the photographs, if Simon includes them in the clips, this rail here had been cut off and was just open, and they had shelves in here. So what we've done is we've put the rail back in where it should be here, and we've now put self-closures on it, so it's a useful cupboard space that we have up there. And my client we've got a door to go on here, so there's going to be a certain amount of privacy, but she wanted a toilet in the cupboard, so we put a toilet in the cupboard, and we had to work out how we get the soil pipe working. This is a Victorian front to the toilet, but we had to get a waste pipe, and we wanted one that dropped straight the way down this U-bend here. So what I did, I bought a brand new toilet bowl for about £150, I think it was, brand new toilet bowl. And I angle ground off the bowl, and then I've sat this pan sits on top of it. So what we've got is we've got an old pan, because it didn't have a connector, sitting on a brand new one, and then we've cemented the two together with a plumber's cement. So that's the old meeting the new. And the flush works, and then we put a valve in here so we can see if the overflow is dripping, so visibly that can be seen. And we've got a little light in there. There will be a door on here, but there's not a lot of room. But you know, I'm a biggish chap, and I think if I was to kind of if I was to come in here, that's got to be screwed on, obviously. But actually, taking that away, you can see where this is the new pipe here. That's the new one. This is the old. Two are married together. This is just going there for decoration to cover up the vulgarity of the new work. So we leave that there. Yeah, and then we've got this little kind of shut the door. If our friends were having dinner, you could open the door and say, "Oh, I won't be very long. I'm just busy. Catch up with you later." Yeah, so we've got hand basin over here. In here again there'll be another door. This cupboard, we're not sure what to do with this. We might cut, it seems sacrilege to cut it up, so we're going to make a little cupboard that goes in there, or we've been asked to. So a little cupboard will go in here, like that, a little corner cupboard, floor to ceiling, a little door on it for your toothbrush, a little shelf in here maybe, and again we've got a light in there. Find another home for that. It seems this is about 1740 maybe. Nice H hinges on it. Seems a shame to cut that up to make something in a cupboard. I could do something. The blue on the wall. These are the original walls. Original walls. Of course, they're original walls. They're holding up the original windows, and the original ceiling. But in here, we found a little bit of the original colour, and it was just a little fleck of blue, lime that had soaked up the pure pigment, and we sent it off to the paint manufacturers. And they match this blue here, and that's, I forget what it is now, I think it's maybe ultramarine blue, can't remember, and that is a case in distemper, and then we had a soft distemper made in the cream, and then the yellow is linseed oil paint known as clotted cream, and we had evidence that the wainscot panelling and the fire surround was all of the original colour, this yellow. And here we've kept the original paint we found on the wall. It wouldn't be to everybody's taste, but once you've found it and you think to yourself, actually, it's kind of crazy, especially this one here between the windows. It does look like Monet's water garden, water lilies. You know, I mean, it could be a piece of impressionist art. Well, you could dream, can't you? But I mean, hey, you know, I think it's quite attractive, so we've left it. The floor. We wanted, again, we wanted wide boards, so these are 8.5 inches wide, and we wanted to match the original boards we had downstairs, but I don't agree with buying salvage floorboards because people take them up unnecessarily and they're expensive, something ridiculous like £160 for a 16-foot length, and we're working on a budget, you know, and trying to save money. So I've used scaffold boards. So these are second-hand scaffold boards which come in at £30 each, and we lay them down. We work on these, so we've done all the plastering and all the painting, and we cover them up and try and look after them. But it doesn't matter if they get messed up because they're messed up already. And then at the end we just wash and we wax them with pure beeswax. So it's pure beeswax mixed with turpentine. I think that's pretty much it really, and there may be a bit of pigment in there to achieve the brown, because it's an antique wax that we use. It's called antique brown, and we mix that sometimes with dark oak wax, and we blend it in to look right. And again, we put screws in here because obviously we've got central heating in here, and we don't want to notch into any of the joists at all. So we've brought the skirting board forward here, and we've got the pipes are on the wall underneath there running along, and then you have to find a way around the joist without notching into the joist or using existing pre-cut marks. We're not going to cut any more notches into the joist. The joists have all been strengthened as well on every floor with noggins that's going in between the joists and screwed in a straight line to strengthen the floor. And then we pack it full of sheep's wool so that the sheep's wool acts as an insulator, and also it's got a fire retardant in it. So we've got cupboards at the top, we've got the frames repaired, we've got the original wall finishes, and then we've got the blue that was soft distemper. This is original panelling that we have here, and we haven't painted it yet, but you can see the repairs that we've done where damage has occurred. So we've put new sections in here and at the top. We've obviously got our new lighting in here, and we've gone for these faux Victorian switches, and we've routed out a section of the timber here, and we've put a timber fillet over the top, which has got the cabling in there. And then these are all repairs that we've done to the stiles and the rails to stabilise the condition of panelling, because this had plywood over the top of it and then hardboard and then wallpaper, so no one really knew that it was here. But it was in very frail condition, but we've managed to save it. And here you can see where the panels have split, and this is how we put in a new insert into the panels. So we clean up the joints, these slide in the joints, we slide them backwards both ways, and then we put a piece of timber in the middle, and we can clamp it and screw it back together again and glue it and sand it down. And up here, you might just see that, Simon, if you can point, that's how we've fixed it to the wall. So here we've got a butterfly clip, so we've got a toggle both sides with a metal bar in between, and the heads of the nuts are in those circles. So we put the toggles in here and then tighten it up to a piece of timber on the wall. This here is the fire alarm system, and this up here in this corner is the break glass burglar alarm system. Now upstairs, and again we've left the paint on the stairs. Where we found the paint, we've left the paint. I don't really agree with burning it off or taking it off, and here we've just cleaned it and waxed it. And again we've got the wear on the stairs, and interestingly enough, the wear on the stairs up here is less than the wear on the stairs downstairs. You try and say that after a drink, but it's it shows you that most of the footfall was from the shop to the first floor, where they must have been entertaining maybe, or showing people cloth that they had. And this was residential, because it's got less wear on the stairs. But this is the original wall coverings that we found, not wall covering, paint finishes. And we've just kind of cleaned it up. It looks like an artwork, doesn't it? But interestingly, you know, I find it fascinating, because you can see where someone has smudged their way up the stairs. So every day they'll be coming up the stairs, and you know, they kind of, as it's narrow, they will come up. You can feel me doing this now. This would be, you come up here, so you smudge around here, and you hit the wall there, and then you kind of walk up like this, and you kind of take the paint off on your shoulder. And they've been doing that for hundreds of years, and that's why that part there is worn and this part up here isn't. So anyway, we've left all the paint on here. It's all part of its history. The straps on here, someone has cut, same as we did actually, they've cut the newel post off to get something up into this floor, because you couldn't get it round the stairs. So they've cut this off, and then they've put a kind of blacksmith kind of strap on there that we've exposed. So difficulty in getting everything up. We have to take it out of the window downstairs at the back and bring it out the back of the house and then through the bedroom windows. So on the wall here behind you, this is the original boarding that we have here. This is the same width as the floorboards and the same type of timber. But what they've done here is they've mounted it on the wall. And we've left it. We haven't taken this off. We've just repaired it because it had shrunk in between the panels. So we just put those beads of timber in there. This is the original paint. So originally it was blue, and then somebody painted it yellow to match downstairs. And we've left it pretty much as it was. Now, lots of people won't like that. Lots of people will. But hey, I like it, and the client likes it. So there you go. Yeah. We needed to save space here, so we built this wall. And again, we've built this out of scaffold boards, because again, they're £13 for a 13-foot length, £1 a foot. And we've done a wall very similar to a house of 1700 in Spitalfield in Elder Street, where they have the same panels but they're alternate. So we have a 9-inch, we have a 9-inch scaffold board, standard scaffold board, by an 1.5 1/4 thick. Sorry, it's in imperial, but I work in imperial. But if you want it in metric, that's 10, 20, it's 35 millimetres. So what we've got is we've got a board, and then we overlap one over the top of it, and then one behind it and one over the top, and we chamfer the edge so it looks intentional, exactly the same as they had in Elder Street, and it's been painted with linseed oil paint. And then to save space, we've got a sliding door, which works quite well. We just bought this online, and we cut it down to fit, and we made this out of scaffold boards as well and put a bead in there. And the colour that we've chosen is an original colour to the room, because if you just follow me over here, inside the cupboard This little section here, we haven't painted that at all, haven't touched that. That's the original paint finish in there, in that section. And we took a sample of this and sent it off to the paint manufacturer, and they matched the paint. So this paint here is a case in distemper, and because it's quite heavily laden with pigments, you get this mottled effect of the walls, which is exactly the same as the wall looked when we first started working on it. The cupboard doors again came from my workshop because there was nothing up here, and you'll see from the photographs that Simon will put with this video, is pretty grim up here actually. We put a lime ceiling in, so it's a 3-coat lime ceiling. Again, that's 2 parts sand, 1 part lime, and it's done in 3 coats. So you have a base coat, you have a scratch coat, and you have a top coat, and you have to spray it while you're working to keep it active. So a little bit of repair to do here because we had the fire alarm put in here, and I didn't like it because it's the first thing you notice in the ceiling when you come in the room. So now we've put it over here out of the way. And again, you'll notice that these floorboards are quite remarkable because these are 12-inch wide floorboards. Now you're going to think, everybody watching this is going to say, oh my God, there's nothing in this house that's original because it's all come from the bloke's workshop. Well, it has come from a workshop. And I had a phone call from my friends at the SPAB, that's the Society of Protection of Ancient Buildings, and they said if you can get over to Horseferry Road, there's a skip full of floorboards, and they're all 12 inches wide. And it was a building that no one really knew about because it had been refaced, so it's a kind of what we'll refer to as kind of newish looking building, certainly not Georgian. Had a cafe below, and the developer was redeveloping the whole of the building. And they had all these floorboards, and obviously they were on a time and money basis, so they wanted them out. So they had 16-foot lengths, and they cut them all into 5-foot lengths to get them in the skip. So I went round there, and the skip was completely full of these floorboards. So I put them all in and on the roof of my car, and drove back over to the workshop at Elephant and Castle, which is South London, and put them all in the workshop. And I've had them in the workshop for about 10 years, and I suddenly thought, well, actually this is the ideal place for them. The boards that came out of here were only 4 inches wide, I think, maybe 5 inches, tongue and groove, but they were too thin, and there was a lot of flexing in the floor. So we've taken the floor up, we've put noggins in there, again strengthened the floor. It's got sheep's wool installation, it's got all new electrics in there, and then we've put these 12-inch wide boards down and we've repaired them. But you can see that here, these cut marks here are part of the history of the boards, because this is where the contractors were angle grinding and cutting the boards to 5-foot lengths on top of each other. So all these cut marks here don't go right the way through, but they're circular saw marks, or they're from grinding stone or doing something on the boards. But you know, we've waxed it and it looks fine now. The hearth was original. This hearth is quite nice because it's been honed, but it had a big crack in the middle of it, so it's in 2 halves. So we took it up and we glued it back together again, and the bricks were already in there. This came from the workshop, and you know, I came up here and offered it in, and it just fitted. This was here, this stonework, but this was a void, and that fitted, but it didn't have a top on it. So I had 2 of these. This one here that's got the swan's basket attached to it, and the other one was just the front. So what I did was I cut it across here with an angle grinder through there, and I used the bottom half of it on the top. So that there is that section off of the broken one. It had a broken foot on it. So I've taken the top half and cut it and turned it round to make the top of the basket. And the other bit, the curve here, is the bit that I showed you on the floor below that we just kind of smudged into the fireplace downstairs so that it kind of was no longer broke. The fire surround has come from another property. This is 1826 fire surround with 1826 mantle. Same with the cupboards, and the cupboard frames are all 1826 that have been salvaged, and the skirting boards, all been salvaged in here. And the windows have been soundproofed. So again, we have the same system that we had downstairs, and I'll show you this again here. So if you know, I mean, it's quite quiet at the moment. I'll keep looking at you and then looking at the camera, looking at the camera, looking at you. What would you like? I can do both.
That's fine.
So if we look, suddenly hear how I mean, it's not, if you're buying this or renting this, it's not a problem, because
it's sort of London background noise, isn't it? Really?
You're in London, you're in the centre of London, and what's quite nice is the fact you've got this open aspect, so you haven't got anything immediately next to you which is taller, and on the other side you've got the alleyway, and you would expect that to be slightly enclosed, but here you've got some sense of space. And everybody says how nice they like this room, because it has top of the house. It's got light coming in from both sides, so it would make a really nice study room rather than the bedroom if you had the bedroom below. But you've got the option of having this as a bedroom or one person. It's quite flexible, but the it just shows you how well the soundproofing works. The only thing we might be doing at the moment on this, I haven't decided, is that we could fit internal shutters, folding shutters which fold back against the wall, which cut even more down. Curtains wouldn't look right in here, so it's only the option of a roller blind or folding shutters, and you could have folding shutters on all these windows. We make them out of plywood first of all, which is the cheap option, to make sure they work, and then we send the plywood templates off for them to be made in timber. But for economy, it might just be an idea to have the plywood ones made. For the moment, I've put in a couple of hooks here from Leyland, trying to save a bit of money, so we've got eyelets in there, and this is a broom handle, which works perfectly well. It's a lot cheaper than buying a curtain pole, that's for sure. The expensive thing are the rings and getting curtains made to fit the space. And do you have short ones? Do you have 40? No, I mean, you start getting into the realms of interior design, and I'm not an interior designer, you know, I'm a builder, I'm a guy that fixes things and plasters things and joins things, so I can do shutters. I like that. Light switches, the same as we've got everywhere else, and then we've got the best bit of the build. Well, in my mind, is the thing that sold the job to me, and that's the roof space. And I think you've already had a glimpse of this on previous video. But what's kind of amazing is the fact that it's still here. It's still here, and there was a number of comments I noticed online about this, saying, "Oh, did it survive the great winds of?" That was Samuel Pepys or somebody had written about, and hurricanes hardly ever happen. I don't know the answer. All I know is that this is the earliest roof that I've seen in Covent Garden, and it's a peg tile roof. And it dates from 1700. The tiles could be earlier than 1700. On some buildings I have found medieval tiles that have been used. Some of the gauges of the tiles are slightly wider than the others, so there could be a mixture of Kentish tiles and Sussex tiles. Might be Surrey tiles. It depends what was coming up the Thames at the time, because depends where the clay seams are. So the tiles would be made wherever the clay is, and then the barges would come up to London with tiles and bricks in them from the clay fields, and then the barges would go back with household waste or some other stuff. Quite often they'd come up with bricks and tiles, and they'd have hay on the top as well for animal feed. I don't quite know how that one works, because if you imagine that when we move these tiles and we move bricks, you get lots of shards and dust, so you wouldn't want your animal feed getting mixed in with the tiles and the bricks. But that's the way that it worked. All this heavy stuff came up by boat. It would come up the Thames to the Strand. It would have been dragged up the hill to the Strand, and this may have gone on to Bedford House, and then when you dismantle the house, you dismantle the tiles, in the same way that when we've worked on this roof, we've put in a new lead gutter all the way round. We've run the lead up the wall and put a lead capping on the coping stones to get and extended it so that the drip falls away from the building and it's all watertight. And we've done it in appliance to the lead federation rise, so you've got to have a platform, and then you've got to have a drop and a length and a drop. You've got to have expansion joints in the lead, which we've adhered to. So it's got all new lead gutters all the way around. But for us to fit that correctly, we've got to run the lead up the roof. So what we've done here is we've taken out 3 or 4 courses of tiles and we've run the lead up, and then we've got second-hand tiles from Maidstone, and we've put the second-hand tiles back because we want them to match the original tiles, and we've put them on these rather large extended pegs and rebattened it on laths. And the reason for that is because we don't want to touch the main core of the roof. The main core of the roof, as you probably noticed from the film, is it's set out on laths, which we use for doing plasterwork on the ceilings. And they've failed, the tiles have all slipped, it's obviously letting a lot of water. So what someone has done is that they've put bitumen over the roof and then Hessian over the top, and then they've re-bitumened it and re-Hessian and then carried on like that. So it's about 2 inches thick in bitumen, and it's a technique that I think you probably would have used on the underside of clinker built boats to try and preserve the boat longer life, but they've done it on a roof, and that itself is quite interesting. So when we replaced the 3 courses of tiles around the outside, we had to cut through the Hessian and cut through the bitumen and then put the tiles back in again. And so from the outside, if you're in one of these buildings over there, you look at our roof, we've got the original black roof, which is like a black cap, and then it's got this band of 3 or 4 tiles of red tiles, and then this really immaculate lead going around the parapet. And you'll notice in here from the film work that we've braced it where the roof has failed, it's cracked, the spars are broken, they've been strengthened. We haven't taken anything away from this roof, we've just strengthened it and enhanced, kind of repaired it really. All the timbers up there are all pit sawn. You can tell that they're pit sawn because the saw marks are irregular, and they were normally cut either on a raised platform on a set of trestles, and you'd have one person underneath pulling the double-handed saw, and they can be up to 16 foot tall, these saws, or you have another man on the top pulling it. And in my view is the fact that the handles are called dogs. So you have a top dog and you have an underdog, and it's the underdog that gets the sawdust in his or her eyes. So that's where the kind of you're top dog if you're actually on the top of the timber and you're cutting it. And the other way of doing it is you have a pit, and it's pit sawn. So you have a guy in the pit, and you have the top dog, pulling the blade up, and the guy down there is in the pit and gets covered in sawdust. I know that turned up on QI, and they said that was fictional. What do I know? But that's a fantastic roof. So I think that's pretty much the tour done. So I hope all those viewing and listening, obviously you'll all have your own views as to how this building should look and how it should be done, but this is how I do it, and this is how I have done it. And I'm quite proud of this job, and it's the last one I'm probably doing. So this is my swan song. So I hope you've enjoyed as much as I have. Thank you.
Right then, that concludes the series of our first edition of Living with Listed. I do hope you've got something from this. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you for bearing with it. And I hope you can now see and understand how I feel about having met Stephen, understanding his knowledge, getting to know him, and his detailed understanding of all things historic buildings. I know Stephen has got some ideas. I'm going to hand the mic over to him. He's going to throw his thoughts into this one now.
So it's just my 2 pennyworth. Thank you, Simon. I'm aware that we've shown you what we can do with historic building finishes and what it can look like, hopefully beforehand when you see the pictures, and then what we've done afterwards. But what we haven't discussed is the actual techniques. So if anyone is interested in brick making, slate cutting, lime mixing, lime plastering, joinery, historic details, how we actually do the research and do the repairs, and how we actually do some of these timber joints that we've been working on, and in particular the ones that we've employed in Goodwin Court, then let Simon know. We're here and we have the knowledge. Thank you.
Very well put. And anything that you have got ideas on, anything you would like to put forward to Stephen, please send the email through to simon@uniqueproperty.tv, and then we'll collate these ideas, and then Stephen can put together, start scheduling how we go forward, and hopefully he helps and guides you through ownership and just a general sort of nuance of historic buildings. Lastly, this building is for sale. There's a guide price on this of offers over £2 million, and the reason I kept the figure to the end of this video is because I wanted you to see and hear firsthand just exactly what's gone in to making this building the special thing it is. This is it's a living piece of history that's able to be purchased, and I think the next custodian of this will be very, very lucky and will enjoy everything that's gone into this over the last 10 years. So if you are interested in the property, you'd be interested in knowing more about it from a purchase point of view, please give me a call, 0203 987 1739 on the phone. That's via the office, or simon@uniqueproperty.tv, and we can talk in far more detail and hopefully arrange a viewing, and who knows, Stephen might come along for the journey. So that's it from us for now. Any other unique, interesting homes you may be interested in, please visit the website uniquepropertycompany.co.uk, where you can also send us anything you may require in terms of a particular property style that you may be looking for. So from me and from Stephen, we look forward to seeing you on the next Living with Listed. Thank you again for joining us. Take care.
Farewell.